Hello and welcome everybody to the second session of the Comet Room. And welcome Nicole Enders. She will give a presentation on, let's go to the next level of collaboration with Mesh for Teams. So you can share your slides and then we can get going.
Yeah. Green, this one.
Right. I see it now. So I'm excited to listen to your talk.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It depends wherever you are. So we are here at the Global XR Conference. And as said, my topic is let's go to the next level of collaboration with Mesh for Teams. Yeah, Mesh for Teams. I think it's now Mesh as a whole topic or program or vision by Microsoft. It took a long time, but now we are there and we have a lot of to talk about. But before I dive into the topic too far, I first want to introduce myself. My name is Nicole Enders and I'm working as a managing consultant. That's the official job description. If I could give me my own job description, I would say, okay, I'm some kind of a workplace technology scout. So I want to check out which technologies out there and how can you use this? How can you improve your daily business? And what are the limits of the technology? Because not every solution can help you for your daily business, because not everything can be resolved by technology. Sometimes you need a method or something else. And we will check out what about Mesh for Teams. Is it a new technology? Has it some business use cases, or is it a hype or whatever? So we will answer this question during the session. And you can see here my avatar. So I was checking out Mesh for Teams avatars first, right? And I created my own avatar, and it looks not completely as but I really like this, that you can create your avatar and can look different than you or a little bit similar to you. So it depends completely upon you. And here my profile picture is quite new because last week I've been at LinkedIn Learning and I was recording a new video video lesson. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of stuff out there as an MVP. In the area, you see here my favorite hashtags. So it's around about the modern workplace. And yes, I'm a Microsoft girl. So it's about Microsoft Teams, business applications with the Power Platform, collaborative apps. I really love this topic because if you talk about collaboration and how you can find a solution, then even Mesh for Teams or mixed reality is a good way to solve some daily business problems. And that's why mixed reality is also one of my special topics. And I'm doing a lot of stuff around there. If you want to stay in touch with me, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and on Twitter or X. We have to say now here in this slide, I'm using the old icon because I love it so much more than the X we have here. Mm, yeah, and some private stuff. So I'm traveling a lot of. I've been in New Zealand, in Australia, in South America, and I'm also a huge fantasy fan. And if you combine both, then you travel to places where movies are made or series. So I had to check out where Lord of the Rings was made, or I've been to the virtual King's Landing in Dubrovnik because I wanted to see how Game of Thrones was made. And sometimes I feel like an explorer in my daily business as well because I am exploring a lot of tools out there. And in Microsoft 365, every time when you think you're finished and you know everything, then there is a change or there's a new service or a new app you can check out. But what I love the most about this is if I can collaborate with other people. And yeah, that's one part of our session topic today. So what do we need to collaborate with each other? If you think about this question, the first answer which comes up in my mind is I need teams. And I'm not talking about Microsoft Teams. I'm talking about a group of people. So collaborating with myself is a little bit hard. So I cannot have a conversation with myself. If I would do this, it would look a little bit weird, I think. Mm, so I need a group of people. I need different teams. And I'm really happy because I have this in my daily business. So I'm working for customer projects and we have a project team. I have an organizational unit where I work together with other people. And yes, we collaborate with each other. And yes, we have meetings. If I think back a few years ago, then meetings had a little bit different meaning as it has today. So a few years ago, a meeting would mean, yes, we are working all at the same office and we are going together in a meeting room and then we are having our conversation there. Sometimes we didn't go to a meeting room, so we had our conversation in the office room itself. But nowadays, it's a little bit different. So we are having a lot of Teams meetings because people are not working at the same place anymore. Maybe for you, it was also already so in the past, but for me, that was a real change during the last 3 or 4 years. So now I'm working together with colleagues who are living in a city far, far away, maybe in a different country. We have to think about different time zones, and hopefully, we have a match that we have some time together. Mm, And then we are using Microsoft Teams not only to write chat messages or to use a team room, we are going with Teams meetings because we want to have a conversation in real time. And if we are talking about meetings, then devices get quite important. So it's really important that we have good devices which help us to have a good meeting atmosphere. So we want to have a feeling in the meeting that everybody can participate in the meeting equally. And this means, okay, maybe I'm traveling and I want to join the Teams meeting via my smartphone. I need to have the same possibilities as the colleagues who are sitting together in a meeting room and are using a TV and a video camera right there. And this means locations don't really matter for me. So yes, maybe we are asking each other who is working from home or from which city or country, but in a real-time collaboration, that shouldn't be the huge question. And I talked a lot about Microsoft Teams now, so that's why Microsoft 365 is already here on this slide, because Microsoft provides a lot of possibilities how we can work together with Microsoft 365. And then we have support for different types of collaboration. And Microsoft Teams is the central entry point to collaborate with each other. I already talked about the project teams. So if we are working together for a customer, then we have the project team. I know that's not the business of every company, so maybe if you hear this, you say, okay, what do you mean with project teams? That's not the main part of my daily business. But maybe you are working together a lot with your customers or with partners. And this, for me, it's a little bit different if I think about collaboration. So a project team, that can be something internal, but sometimes we are also working together in a team room with customers or with partners. And then you need to think about, okay, which information is an internal information and which information is an external information. But that can be done in Microsoft Teams with channels and so on. So if we think about meeting with each other, then in a Teams meeting, it will be a difference that we talk to external or to internal people. You can also have collaboration in and between org units, so that's quite internal. And what about communities? So if we have a community maybe for a special topic, so think about Mesh for Teams. I like this topic. I create a community in my company, and then everybody else who's interested in this topic can have a conversation with me. Maybe we are using Viva Engage or a team room or whatever for this. But that's also possible. And I don't need to go to different apps or services. I don't need to switch between browsers or applications. I use Microsoft Teams to do this all. And I even do my events, audio and video calls right there. So that's the main or the classic part, you could say, about communication. So we are having a real-time conversation. And if it's not possible, then you can go with the team rooms or with the chat. But let's think about one question. Are you ready for your next Teams meeting? Think for yourself, how many Teams meetings do you have on a typical day or on in a typical week? If I think about this question, then I have a lot of Teams meetings, and on some days I would say, okay, I'm starting at 8 a.m. in the morning and it ends up maybe at 6 p.m. and I have one meeting after the other. Maybe every 30 minutes I change a little bit the the focus, the topic, the participants of the Teams meeting. So it can be quite hard. And yes, I talked a lot of on such a day. But at the end of the day, I would ask myself, what did I do? I was sitting at my PC and I was watching my notebook screen or maybe a second screen, it doesn't matter. Looking on a screen and I have a conversation. But did I talk to other people? Did I really talk to them? I'm not sure. So what do I mean? We are meeting virtually. And yes, the question is, why should we change anything? It's working. So think about here, the screen, you see a lot of faces. You see the faces of your colleagues, of your customers and partners. And maybe you want to do some brainstorming. So I use the whiteboard app, and we are very creative, and we are thinking about a new solution, maybe for our current task we are working on. But whiteboard, that's a good point. Do you see the shoe in the middle of the whiteboard? Mm, yes, if I see the shoe, I have a question. Who was painting this shoe? If I'm using my notebook and I don't have a touch screen, I have a notebook how a software developer would have it. So I have a lot of power in there, but no touch screen, and I have no pen or whatever. So if I want to draw such a shoe, it gets really, really hard. So I'm not equally with my colleague who has a notebook with a touch screen because she has a little bit a different job than I. She can paint. I cannot really do this. So it's hard for me. If I would have a whiteboard, a physical whiteboard in my room, I could do this. That would be great. So how can we find a solution right there? Yes, I know, I'm aware of this, that you can have these intelligent whiteboards. So you have a physical whiteboard, you are drawing something, and then it's reflected in your Teams meeting. But that's not the point I want to talk about. I talk about that if you don't have this special equipment, then it gets quite hard to work together here in this way. And finally, I'm looking on the screen, I see the other faces, but I know that they are not here in the same room. I'm not looking directly in the eyes of the other person, so I'm looking a little bit downwards, because I want to see everybody, and then I'm not focusing on the camera anymore. Yeah, and how would it look like? Here's a picture, a selfie I took during the last month, and here I'm sitting at home. So on this day I was working in the home office, and I thought nobody is there in the office. So it doesn't matter if um, I'm going to the office or if I'm staying home. And then we had a Teams meeting. I thought it's a Teams meeting for everybody. But then, yes, you see a lot of people are there on the screen. So many people were working from home or from a different location. But three people, maybe more, we can only see three of them. Three people were in the office. They were sitting in the meeting room. And I didn't know this. And now, as the meeting started, I said, okay, that's not good. That's really sad. If I would have known this, then I would have joined these three people, and we would have a lot of more fun as I'm having this now when I'm sitting at home. So think about that. The feeling is a little bit different. So you're sitting in at home, or maybe you're sitting in the office on the day by your own. You're working from somewhere else. You don't have the option to work together with colleagues in the same room, and then you feel isolated. You feel a little bit sad about this fact. Yeah, and what should I say? Welcome to the new normal. So we have the option to work flexible. We can work from home. We can at different times. We can decide where we want to work, and this can be very confusing. And on some days, it's really, really hard. So think about my example right here. As I said, okay, I decided to work from home because I thought nobody will be in the office. And then I learn that somebody is there. And I don't have the time. It's like the rabbit in Alice in the Wonderland. I cannot be at the right time in my meeting and be in the office. I cannot do this because it's not possible for me to say, Scotty, beam me up. I really love this example. So if I could beam myself to another place immediately, this would solve my problem. but that's not possible. So I cannot go to the holodeck also. So think about here, we have a jungle and we can go to the holodeck and we can check out something. We can meet there and maybe we have a simulation of a situation. We want to do a training or whatever. We cannot go there. That's only science fiction. Is it really only science fiction? Yes, the last part, we cannot beam ourselves to another place. But think about the holodeck and everything you heard about Mesh for Teams so far. Maybe you will find a similarity. I will show you. So, but everything starts with the first step. And the first step of the Mesh vision are the Mesh avatars for Microsoft Teams. They are already there. So they're there for a longer time now. And as I showed you on my title slide already, I have my personal avatar. And I said, okay, how should it look like? I can configure it in the way I really like. And yes, everybody of us can join with one of his avatars. Think about Teams meetings in a slightly different way now. If we try Mesh for Teams, so the avatars, what does it mean? You're joining a Teams meeting and you're looking on your screen. You're looking in your camera if you activate your camera or not. And now we have here two different groups of people. We have the persons who activate the camera and we have the persons who are joining the Teams meeting via the avatar. It's a complete mix. And as you can see, joining with an avatar means that you can also select your virtual background. You're there like a usual participant. And you can also have some reactions. So think about the heart, for example. So we have some different options to be interactive with our avatar. And here you can see how it's working. Now here in this case, everybody is joining with its avatar. And here is the app, how you can configure your avatar. Then when joining the meeting, you can decide which one you want to take. And if we go back right here, so check here, this case, you see I have a lot of options. So I can select how the body looks like, what about the clothes I'm wearing, the face, the hair, dress, the wardrobe, appearance. I can go through this complete wizard and design the avatar like I want to have it. And if you go here to the screen to join a Teams meeting, you have the option to say, okay, I want to activate the camera or not. And if I don't activate the camera, then I can go with one of my avatars right here. You see, I can have multiple ones. At the moment, there are three possible. And so I've prepared my avatars, or maybe I've not, so I can create one more. And then I'm using the virtual background so it looks a little bit nicer as the dark screen I would have instead if I wouldn't go with the virtual background. Mm. So, but why should you think about joining a meeting with your avatar? I discuss this question quite often. If we think about joining a Teams meeting with an avatar, yes, it seems a little bit weird because I can activate my camera. But in some reason or some use cases, you are not activating a camera. And why don't you do this? Maybe you're walking around during a meeting. So as you can see here at the top left corner, we see a virtual background. And I had this situation quite often. So a colleague said to me, I'm so sorry. I need to walk around a little bit. I was sitting the whole day and there's one meeting after the other. So please don't mind. I need to walk a little bit, but I hear you because I'm wearing a headset. Yes, for my colleague, everything is fine. But for me, I'm looking on this virtual background. Nothing is happening, and I don't know what he's doing. I don't see anything, and it feels a little bit weird that I'm talking to this virtual background because I hear the voice of my colleague and we are talking to each other, but a phone call would be the same. So in this case, an avatar could be a good option because this avatar, I know that's not the real person. It's a digital version of my colleague, but he is moving a little bit, he is smiling or not, he is um, talking to me, so I see his lips are moving, and it feels a little bit more natural. Another reason or another example I want to talk about is traveling. So I'm traveling a lot of. And if I would join a Teams meeting with my camera and I'm walking at the same time, then the other person could get motion sick, I would say, because my smartphone is moving in this way and an activated camera wouldn't really work. So traveling could be also a use case to go with an avatar instead because it looks a little bit more comfortable for the other participants. Yeah, and then there are a lot of people who are feeling uncomfortable with an activated camera. So there are different reasons. They're all on a very personal base. But if people don't go with an activated camera, then as you can see here, the example is here, Anna, they are not visible in the meeting. A few minutes ago, I talked about two groups of people, the ones who activate their camera and the ones who activate the avatar, so they don't have an activated camera. But I didn't talk about the people who are doing none of the two options. So think about today if you are joining a Teams meeting and you don't activate your camera, then you are only a small bubble. If it's a very small meeting, then the others are aware that you are there. If it's a meeting with more participants, then you will see the gallery, you will see all the people who have activated their camera. And on the right side, you would see all the bubbles of the people who haven't activated their camera. And now it really depends how active you are in this meeting. If you are not talking, so you are listening and you are not visible because you don't use your camera, then people will forget about you. So you will have a conversation. Maybe you want to say something, but nobody will know that you are there. And I checked this out in a larger meeting. Maybe after this meeting, somebody will tell you, "Yes, Nicole, there was a meeting, and we talked about so many things. It would be great if you would have been there." So I was really sad that I didn't see you there. Maybe I tell you a little bit about this meeting. Then I would answer, "I've been there. I heard everything." And then the other person would wonder about this fact because they didn't recognize me. If I go with an avatar, everybody would see my avatar, and even if I wouldn't say a word, maybe the people would remember me. And in some cases, this is quite important that people know that you were there. Maybe they see your avatar, and then you wouldn't say something by your own, but a person sees your avatar and asks you a question, and then you are part of the conversation as well. Yeah, complete different example are my bad light conditions. So at this moment, I'm sitting here in the office and I have the window in my back. Think about that. The sun would be out there. So here at the moment, that's not such a problem. But if the sun would be outside there, then you would only maybe see my silhouette, so my outline. Everything would be dark. You wouldn't see my face, and what couldn't really imagine what I'm thinking about. And I got the feedback in these situations that somebody said, okay, you can deactivate your camera because I don't see you anymore. And then we get the same problem as the person who is feeling uncomfortable with an activated camera. In a larger meeting, people will forget about me. And the last point, so also this is not a complete list, that's only a few examples. If you're thinking about all these back-to-back meetings, so you have no time for a real break, for a lunch break, and so on, and now it's a time you really need to eat something, you need a break at this point, you are joining a meeting where you don't have an active part at the moment, then maybe that's the situation or the chance for you to eat a little bit, so maybe a short snack or whatever. And if you don't want the other persons to be attracted by you eating something, then you can deactivate your camera. You get the same problem as before, so maybe people will forget about you. And the resolution also there is going with your avatar. Maybe I had a discussion a few weeks ago with one of my customers. Maybe a solution can be that you have some kind of a guideline. When do I use an avatar and why not? But we will talk about guidelines at the end of the session also. So, a little bit of history before we dive into Mesh for Teams a little bit more. Where does Mesh for Teams come from? I remember it like it was yesterday. So I remember the Microsoft Spring Ignite 2021. Alex Kipman was doing the keynote, and I really remember this, the Mesh loves Teams screen we see here in the background, and you can see here we are here in virtual reality. We are here in Altspace VR. Altspace VR is not available anymore, but at this time it was a really good platform to have internal or external events, and the Ignite was done in Altspace VR, especially for the keynote, and I had the pleasure to be one of the moderators there in the different rooms, so you could see how people were behaving, and it was really funny because everybody was here in the virtual reality, and they were behaving in a way as you would do this in the real life. I will talk a little bit more in detail about this if we go further here in the story. But what did Alex Kipman talk about? He did not only talk about that Mesh loves Microsoft Teams, he also talked about the huge vision of Microsoft Mesh. And the vision is a little bit larger as we have this in Mesh for Teams at the moment. So it's very important that you see what's going on. At 2021, the HoloLens was the most important device we saw here. This has changed in the meantime. But here in this case, think about, we have a lot of data out there. Every company is collecting so many data every second, every day, and we are not using all of this data in the way we could do this. So think about, you're working for a company who is designing or producing cars. You see here a huge picture where we see a digital twin of a car, and person are collaborating with each other. One is there who's walking around, or you see two people, a man and a woman, who are there with their avatar, and you have other persons who are standing in this room, and they're wearing a HoloLens because otherwise they won't see the avatar of the other person. We see smaller pictures right here with different examples. So we have two women here in the left small example. One woman is standing in her living room with a child sleeping next door. The other woman is standing outside in a forest, and she checked the machine. And then they are having a meeting together and they are looking on a virtual twin of the globe and they're getting a lot of data. And now maybe they have a discussion and they have to make a decision about a business scenario. In the middle, we see a person who is wearing the HoloLens and she gets every important information because maybe she's working for an airport or whatever. And on the right side, we see a learning and teaching situation because somebody wants to learn maybe a special language and the other person has the knowledge about this and can teach the other person. So this is the vision of Microsoft Mesh. So you can collaborate, you can do trainings, you can have simulations, and you can get more out of your data as you can do this today. And this with the help of digital twins, holographics, and the collaboration part at the same time. And after the Spring Ignite 2021, I was doing a lot of with Outspace VR, so I got some kind of Outspace VR junkie. And if you see this, you could say maybe it's some kind of a grandmother, grandfather or so of Mesh for Teams, especially the immersive space. So, what do you know about Outspace VR? Maybe you are familiar with this, but I'm pretty sure there are also people who didn't have the chance to go with this platform. So, a few words about this. This was a website. You had also an app for your PC and an app to go via a virtual reality headset. So you had the option to go with your PC in a 2D format and then it looked like 3D. And you had also the option to go with a virtual reality headset and then it felt like you are in a complete different world. So as I did this the first time, I was aware about that I was standing in my living room, but I forgot about this at the same time. And I felt like I was in a complete different world. Everything starts with customizing an avatar. So in Artspace VR, I had only one, and I couldn't get with multiple ones and select the one I really like at the moment. So I customized my avatar, and then I had an event code or a link to an event, and then I could join the environment right there. The environment, I can say it was called a world or a universe. So I could create complete virtual spaces and then the people could move in these spaces. And here you see an example. So think about that you are going to a conference or a town hall meeting, and then everybody can see hear each other. And what I really, really liked was the situation we see here at this table. So think about in the real reality, I have to say, if you have a person and you are too far away, then you would not hear what this person is talking about. If you come closer and closer, it gets easier for you to understand what this person is talking about, and that's called spatial audio. And this was possible here in Altspace VR. So maybe at this situation here, I'm standing very close to these two people here in front of the table. I could understand what they are talking about and I can join the conversation. If I go around back here to the table, they get a little bit harder to understand, but the other two behind the table, it get easier. So I can join this conversation as well. And if I'm talking about walking over to another group of people, if you are wearing a virtual reality headset, that's really walking over. It depends on the room, so how much space you have, but it feels complete natural to dive into this situation. If you are joining this via your PC, you can do this as well. So you have the same spatial audio, but you are going with your keyboard or with your mouse, and it feels a little bit more like you are playing a video game. So it's a little bit different feeling. And my recommendation is if you have the option, then check it out to go with a virtual reality headset. So let's check if there are any similarities between Altspace VR and Mesh for Teams. And now we are looking in a few examples now in the short time. So it all started with this example. So we have here this group of people in the front. You see here the armchairs. So we have a digital version of a globe, for example. And in the back, you see people standing at a whiteboard. And now imagine my problems with the whiteboard app when I don't have a touchscreen notebook. Here in this case, I'm going with my VR headset, and I can imagine that I'm standing there in front of a whiteboard, and then I can take a post-it, I can put it somewhere else, and can paint something. And yes, I need to be aware about my room. So if I have a wall where I can do my painting and so on. But it's really cool because other people who are not going with a VR headset, they're joining a classic Teams meeting. They can participate as well. So they're using the whiteboard app we know today, but we are collaborating with each other with different options. And that's important for the use cases we want to support. Think about a meeting we're having together. So we have people who are going with the Teams client, and it looks like they are remote participants, maybe with an avatar, maybe with their camera activated. And we have all the people who are here going in virtual reality and us sitting there around the table. These were the first examples. You can build a lot of custom stuff out there. And if we are going to the immersive meetings, which are possible at the moment, then you have this area right there. So it's an outside area, looks quite nice, like a campus. And if we are going here to our Teams meeting and we are using our PC, you could see that we can now select a different view and say, okay, I want to go with an immersive space. And then you take the lake house or the oasis, and then you can join your meeting via PC or via your VR headset. This is a little bit different example if you want to go with here classic meeting room as well. Or maybe you want to have a little bit different. Maybe you're going to have a meeting for the whole company or whatever, and we need a larger room. It would be also a good option. And here, maybe you want to build your own custom immersive spaces. So if you want to build them, you see that's, I would say that's the configurational or low code part we have here. But not every time all the prepared scenarios will be nice or proficient for you. So think about with Unity as a platform for the software developers, you have options to build your own 3D worlds and use them in the future for your custom immersive spaces. And then it depends on you how you are going in a Teams meeting right there. So let's start your journey with Mesh for Teams. And the only thing you need is to start the journey. So maybe you have some people who are going with a VR headset, but you can go with all the classic devices as well. So think about the devices in your meeting rooms. Think about the PC or the mobile devices you have already there. And then there are a few questions I want to give you on your way finally here in this session. So what can you do to establish Mesh for Teams in your company? You need to answer the question how you can enable your colleagues or your employees to collaborate in an immersive environment. So it's a different way of collaboration because you are in a virtual world at this time. You're not talking to a screen anymore. You can be interactive. Maybe you want to build some immersive components. So maybe if I'm talking about these digital twins, you want to build them and use them here in your immersive meetings as well. Do you need some kind of a guideline? So maybe how we want to collaborate, when do we use an immersive space? What about the maximum amount of immersive space meetings a day? And maybe you also want to talk about a guideline or the need of a guideline for styling your personal avatars. It will be a question, how many VR headsets do you need? Do you have one for each employee? Or do you have a set of VR headsets, and how can I book one if I like to use it? And that can be a funny question. Will you use Mesh for Teams and these immersive spaces for external collaboration with your customers and partners? Or do you say it's something internal? And who will you prepare the immersive rooms for? So do you have a group of people who will prepare the immersive rooms, or do you say everybody can do this? So it depends upon you. And here's my recommendation. In which cases should you prefer an immersive meeting? For me, it's all about creative activities like brainstorming. So think about my whiteboard example. It's a lot of about socializing. So if you want to have a natural conversation with other people, or if you don't have the option to have an in-person meeting for a group of people on a regular base, then this can be an alternate way to collaborate. So that's my recommendation and all the stuff I have prepared. Thank you very much. And now I'm curious if we have some questions.
Yes, thank you very much, Nicole. A very interesting introduction to Microsoft Mesh. Yes, we had a quite a lively discussion actually in the chat, and people really liked your examples here. One thing you already answered that Bruno was asking here is how to create or customize the environments when working with Mesh. You had a slide about that before, and actually, like even before Taiko answered that you can add it with environments in Unity. But like maybe you could elaborate a bit more. So Unity is also like a third-party software that also requires a license, and so there may be some complications with this approach. So yeah, what options do people exactly have for customizing or working with environments?
Yeah, I think we are very early in this journey. So at the moment, you have different prepared environments. So the spaces you can start with, as I said, the Oasis or the Lake House. And then you will see in the future that there will be more and more option to configure your immersive space. So that's the no-code part, I would call it. And yes, then when you have special requirements, and I know I'm a software engineer, so I'm aware of Unity at this moment, then you will have these special requirements where you need software developers to build some solutions, or maybe you will find some kind of a marketplace in the future. I'm not sure, but I can imagine that we will have some kind of a market space where you say, okay, here is a different scene. Somebody has prepared something, and I can buy this for my environment. But I think the huge power is if you have a special business and you want to have a solution which really fits for your special needs, then you will need a software developer or somebody who builds the software for you. And then, yes, Unity is a little bit complex to learn, and you need people who are very good in designing 3D objects, and they'll have to look pretty nice, because otherwise you think you're back in the 19th or so. And you also need people who are very good in developing functionalities, and then you have to mix both. But I have the huge hope that we will find a lot of stuff we can configure, and we can have the standard collaboration with this.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, that sounds like a good approach. It will develop further. One thing I'm also wondering about, so Mesh is originally been developed for the Microsoft ecosystem. Like I was actually able to try it a long time ago with the HoloLens, and um, I assume that like you only need a Microsoft devices to connect to this shared mesh space. Are they allowing like or like do you know of any plans to open a mesh to other devices or other interfaces?
I'm I'm smiling because it's a funny story because yes, it started all with the HoloLens, but at the moment, that's the funny part. If we think about which VR headset is used for Mesh for Teams, it's the Meta Quest 2. So I was buying an Oculus Quest, so I have to think about the wording every time. It's the Meta Quest, which is supported, and not the HoloLens at the beginning. So I think Microsoft had to make the decision in the past years if a HoloLens, which is augmented reality, so you see the room around you, is a good option, or if you need to go with a virtual reality headset. And that's what I said, that you are sitting in a room and nobody else is there and you're feeling isolated and so on. This would be the same with an augmented reality headset like the HoloLens, because you would be aware of it. And if you have a virtual reality headset, I know it sounds crazy, but you forget about your environment. You forget about, oh my God, I'm standing or sitting here on my own and I'm isolated or whatever. You feel like, there's another person and there's another person. It's really funny. And that's why Microsoft is going with Meta at the moment. So they have a partnership. I think this was announced last year or so. And I'm pretty sure that in the future we will see more headsets. But which headsets will be supported at which time, I think that will be a big surprise. But for me, it's funny that they are going with other headsets as their own. So their own is somewhere there, but it's not the first choice at the moment.
Yes, very interesting developments. I wasn't aware about the partnership with Meta, but like it makes sense. They have the biggest market share. All right. Yeah, we're just on time. There's another thanks from Bruno for the answering of the question. So um, yeah, please continue the discussion on Discord. As you know, we have a Discord channel for this room. And thanks again, Nicole. Yeah, I would say we can close the session now. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you for having me and have a good rest of the conference.